Okay, welcome back to module 6. We're going to leave all that complicated sail shaping stuff behind. We're going to revisit knots now. There's a couple more knots to learn, but we're going to recap on those knots that we started with in part 1. So here we are, module 6, knots, part 2. One of the reasons why we tie particular knots is that we want to untie them. So all of these knots have been designed for a particular purpose, and that purpose is to, hold something, but we also want to be able to undo it when we're finished. We don't want to be cutting the ropes. So that's why we're doing these knots. So we're going to have another look at the stopper knot, the bowline, the round turn, the 2 half hitches, and the clove hitch. We're also going to have a look at the sheet bend and how to coil a rope. The good old stopper knot called the figure of 8. Nice simple knot to start with, get us back into knot tying mode. Again, we use this when we don't want the ropes to unthread through the pulleys, and it's nice to have a bit of a tail on the end of the rope so that we've got something to pull it back away from the pulley.
And if we create our alien shape, let me actually turn this round so it's the right perspective for you. So we've got our alien head shape. We strangle the alien a little bit, and then we poke the alien in the eye. There's the 8 shape. We can pull that tight, and there's our figure of 8 stopper knot.
Okay, so the next knot is the double overhand. Again, it's a stopper knot, and we use it certainly on thin ropes going through a bigger pulley. It's a really nice, easy knot to undo. So let's have another go at trying that.
So our double overhand stopper knot. If I cross the rope over and tuck it through, then go round again, when I pull it tight, the loops form up going across the rope, and there's our nice chunky double overhand stopper knot.
Okay, so now we're looking at the good old favourite bowline or bowline. Yep, it's still the king of knots. It's one we really need to know. And if you're struggling with it, there's only one thing to do, and that's to practice. Keep going over this section and practice. This is probably the one knot that most people have the most struggle with learning. And unfortunately, it's just a matter of time and keep going over it.
Okay, so recapping the bowline, here we have the loop that we're making, and if I hold the short one with my finger sticking out, I can bend the long one around my finger, and that will create the loop that's part of the knot. I then need to take the rabbit and pass it up out of the loop. Now at this point I need to be careful not to pull this too short. I'm going to go around the back of the tree, and I'm going to go back down the hole, and then if I hold these 2 pieces and pull on that bit, there we have our little life jacket shape. We've got the tail on the inside of the loop, so even the most pedantic of sailors will be happy with that bowline. And there we have our bowline. Roll it over, push the back of the life jacket to get it undone. Let's go through that one more time. So we fold it over. This is the loop that we're forming. I'm going to make the loop that forms part of the knot. The longer rope passes underneath, so that bit's correct now. I'm going to take the rabbit, I'm going to pass it up out of the hole. I'm going to go around the back of the tree, and I'm going to go back down the hole again. I'm going to hold these 2, and I'm going to pull on that one, and there's our bowline.
Okay, now we're on the recap of the round turn and 2 half hitches. I really like this knot. It's pretty simple. Follow the name. We do the round turn, we do half hitches, and then we have a round turn and 2 half hitches. So let's have a crack at that one now.
If I wrap the rope around the bar, this is not considered a round turn. There's not enough friction. So we need to go round again So the round turn is like 2 wraps around, if you like. Now we need to do our half hitches. If I cross the rope over, you see there's a wee gap here. So if I just poke the tail through that gap and pull that up tight, that's 1 half hitch. So I just need to do that again. There's the gap, take the tail, poke it through, it's all in the same direction, pull that tight. So here we have a round turn, 1 half hitch, another half hitch, and that's how you tie the knot. Now the really good thing about this knot is if I pull on this line, imagine I've tied my boat to the dock and the wind is blowing on it, so there's load on the line, I can still undo it. And this is the only knot that I know that we can undo when there's load on the line. And it's all because of that round turn. If we go round once, it slides really easily. If we go round twice, when there's tension, there's a lot of friction on there and it doesn't slip. It's the round turn that takes the load. The half hitches, so there's 1 half hitch, and then let's tie the next half hitch. They just back up on themselves and stop it from coming undone, but it's actually the round turn that does all the work. So there we go, the round turn and 2 half hitches. It's a really useful knot.
And moving on to the clove hitch, another knot that I like. Really useful putting those fenders on really quickly.
So the clove hitch, it's another useful knot. Starts off a little bit like round, but instead of wrapping it around, as we go round for our second around, we're going to go across. So the round turn just comes kind of parallel. The clove hitch goes across, and as the tail comes round, we literally just poke that underneath the bit that crosses, and when we pull that tight, the bit that goes across keeps it done up. It's a very simple knot, it's really quick and easy to tie. Let's start again with that one. So you wrap it around, so once around, across, and for the second wrap around, we tuck the tail underneath the bit that crosses, and when we pull it tight, the pressure of that crossing piece keeps it done up. Now, if I was using that to put my lifelines or something, I can move it to reposition the fenders where they need to be, and I can quickly take up some length if I want to. I don't have to retie it, so I can move the height of the fender. Now, as that goes around, it will kind of shake loose. So if I leave the boat for a month, I'll probably come back and find all my fenders have fallen off. So it's quite nice, perhaps if you're going to leave the boat for a while, just to throw in a couple of half hitches. That will keep that done up for a while. Or you can just tie a loop. So if I pass a loop, or if you want to be really technical, a bite through there, I can pull that tight. That will keep the clove hitch done up. And when I come back and I want to take off my fenders, I can just pull on the tail and it will come undone and it will come off really easily. So let's tie that just one more time. We're going around, we're going across, we're going around again. We're going to poke the tail underneath, and there we have our clove hitch.
The reef knot. It's not used that much nowadays. It was used in reefing, and there is a module on reefing coming up. So reefing is just making the sail smaller, and we would use a reef knot to tidy the bit of sail up that we weren't using. Now in this picture, I've used 2 ropes. This knot is not intended for tying ropes together. The reason I've used 2 ropes is that they're different colors and you can see the path that each rope takes. let's have a go at tying this. It's probably a knot you're not going to use very often, but it is a useful one to know.
So the reef knot. It's quite an easy knot to tie, but it's one that sometimes people struggle with and it can be a little bit frustrating. So this is my right hand and this is my left hand. If I take my right hand and cross it over the top of my left hand, and then take my left hand and cross it over my right hand, I will find that I've got 2 interlocking loops, and I can pull on that really tight and it won't come undone. The issue with the reef knot is that when it's got tension and then the tension comes off and then tension's back on again, you can find that it will shake loose. So it's a pretty useful for most applications. There's only one application, which is tidying up sails that have been reefed, which it's useful for. So let's go over that again. So I guess that's why it's called the reef knot. So right hand crosses over the left hand crosses over the right, and you get 2 interlocking loops. Now if you struggle with left and right, you might end up with a knot that looks like that. Don't stress about it. We can just undo half of it. Now if we laid this piece with its cousin here, and then we lay this bit with its cousin over here, we'll find that we have 2 interlocking loops. So it's quite common for us to end up with a knot like that. That's not a reef knot. We want to put this bit next to there, take this one and put it next to its friend, and there we have the 2 interlocking loops. So we just tie it one more time nice and slowly. The best way I find to think about it is right hand over left hand over right hand. Here we go, the reef knot.
Sheet bend. Now, I actually use this sheet bend a lot. It's really handy for tying the painter from a dinghy. So if you're cruising and you've got a little dinghy or a tender to row ashore on, the rope on the front of that dinghy is called a painter. And when I'm lifting the dinghy up onto the foredeck, I would take the painter and I would use this sheet bend to tie that to the jib halyard. And instead of pulling the sail up, I would pull the dinghy up and use the winches to do all the hard work for me and lift that dinghy up onto the foredeck. So really useful in a man overboard situation. If we want to recover someone that's fallen in the water, we throw them a rope with a bowline tied in it. Maybe we can't lift them back on the boat, so maybe we tie another rope to that line that we threw to the person in the water, and we put that rope, up the mast onto a winch or just onto the winch. So it's a really useful knot for tying 2 ropes together, and it's quite a simple knot. So let's have a look at how we can tie that.
So the single sheet bend is a really simple knot to tie. When we have a thicker rope, we fold that over and we take the thinner rope and place it underneath. Then we wrap the thin one around. That keeps these 2 bits together. And with the tail, we just need to poke it underneath where it came through. So we're simply just coming up underneath, wrapping around once, and there's our single sheet bend. So this knot is particularly useful when joining 2 ropes that are different diameter. We wouldn't really use this knot if the rope was the same diameter. And the hardest thing about this is how simple it is. So just fold this one over. That's all we need to do in terms of tying the knot for the thicker rope. The thinner rope comes in underneath, wraps around, and then just poke the tail underneath and pull that tight. We do need to form it up a little bit, but at that point there it's done. That's the single sheep bend. Now if we want a slightly stronger knot, we can just make the tail a bit longer. So there's our single sheep bend with a slightly longer tail, and we just go round again, poke that tail underneath, exactly the same as we did the first time. And when we pull that tight, the double sheep bend will be stronger than the single sheep bend, and the reason for that is all to do with friction in the knot and the load being spread over a wider area. So there we have the double sheep bend. That's the single sheep bend. Really useful knots for joining two ropes together.
Coiling a rope. Now, coiling a rope up is really quite important. But here at the club, when we're sharing boats, we want to make sure the boat is tidy for the next group that comes in. And coiling a rope up means that that group is not dealing with a horrible tangled mess that they have to untangle before they go sailing. Also, if you're sailing on other people's boats, they might expect us to respect their equipment. Ropes are expensive items, and if we coil it up, if we hang it up to dry, then that rope will last a lot longer. So if you're going to get into doing the Friday rum races and going sailing on other boats, if you can coil the rope up when you finish racing, you'll probably get an invite back. And I'll show you how you can do that.
Okay, so coiling a rope. I've got a rope here that's a bit all tangled up, and let's prepare it for coiling. I really don't want to leave the rope like this because it's just a tangled mess, and somebody else, when they come to the boat, is going to have to untangle this before they go sailing. So, and that might be me, and that might be wasting my time. So I'm keen to get all the tangles out of that. So I'm just going to run it through my hands, and I'm going to see if I can get all of the twists. And oh, here's a bit of a tangle coming up. I'll just try and pull that out. I'm not sure if that's a tangle or not, but sometimes these ropes can take a bit of time to get untangled, and it can be a little bit frustrating if you're sharing boats with people and they haven't shown any value to your time. But anyway, let's try again. There's a little bit of tangle that's falling out. That's nice. And a little bit here to come out. There we go. All right, so that's untangled now, and it's ready to coil. So if I go out to the full extent of my arms, when I come together, each time I do that, the coils are the same length. So that's what I just need to do. The other thing is, it might need a little bit of a twist. So I'm just rolling the rope in my fingers to take out any twists that come. There's another one, so a little bit of a roll. Another roll of my fingers just to get that twist out. So all of those loops are quite nice, similar lengths. We've got quite a tail here, and I'm going to use that to stop this from coming uncoiled. I'm going to give it a bit of a rotation because I want this tail to be down here where I had it before. The tail was a bit short, so I'm going to rotate it a bit just so that hangs a bit nicer down there. Then I'm going to take the other side and wrap it around. So if I go a couple of times, that's all it really needs. Then I'm going to form a bite, a loop if you like. I'm going to pass it through the loop at the top, and then I'm going to take the rest of my tail and pass that through the bite. And there we have our nicely coiled rope and that's not going to become untangled or become tangled. It's going to be able to be tied up, be able to dry. Don't really want to leave ropes in the bottom of the boat to rot. Now some skippers will want to take that top and push it down over the top of the wraps around, and then we'll have to do another bite and pass the tail through to hang it up. Now that's more secure, but it takes a little bit longer to uncoil it when you want to use the rope. So I would tend to only have one bite, because I find it a little bit awkward sometimes to get that rope ready to use. So we're going to come round, we're going to come through with the bite and come through with the tail, and that is done. Now this is fine if you're done for sailing for the day and you're packing the boat away, but if you've got a rope that you're not using right now and you're out sailing and you might want to use it, say in an emergency you might want to use the rope, I would prefer to have that rope more readily available to be used. So if I take just the loops of the rope, pass that around something, maybe the lifeline or one of the stanchions, I pass the bottom bit through the top bit, that rope can sit on the boat and be no tangles, it's out the way, it's secure. But in an emergency, or if I suddenly need to use that rope, I just need to grab it and put it, and I have that rope available to throw to the person that's in the water or to lash up the dinghy, whatever I need to do. If I've done sailing for the day, then for sure, I'm gonna make sure my coils don't come undone. I'm gonna use that bite and the tail to make something that I can tie up and hang so it can dry. But there we go, coiling a rope.
Okay, so well done. We've finished module 6. There's no quiz again for knot tying. Please do practice the knots though. The rope that we gave you in that first practical lesson, that's there for you to keep practicing. The only way to learn how to do knots is just to keep doing it, just to keep repeating it. Yeah. So keep practicing and revisit this module whenever you want to. And I'll see you on module 7.